Well, good morning. Hi, and how are you doing out there in internet land? My name is Brian Tripp, and I am the Front Porch Conservative, and welcome to Front Porch Brunch. I agree with TBA over on Rumble. It feels like it's been forever since we've gotten together for one of these. It's amazing, and glad to have you guys here in the house. Oh my goodness, been a long, long time. It's way too long. But travel and other things have kind of got me my schedule and travel and illness have got my schedule just like totally messed up. But I am glad to be here this morning. I am glad you guys are here this morning. I see a lot of old friends and good to be here with all of you guys. I've missed you too, my dear. I have missed you too. Mwah. I found your note over there on Discord and I am, I definitely have missed you too. So yes. Oh goodness. So glad you guys are here for Front Porch Brunch. We are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, and we are on Twitter. So if you haven't done it yet, take the link, send it out to your friends, tell them to come on in. Let's see if we can have a discussion about some of the things going on in the world. And yes, there are things going on in the world that we need to talk about. So, all right, let's see who all is here this morning. We'll start over on the Rumble side. WWG1 is dropping in memes as usual. Salty Old Fart is here. Good morning, sir. TBA is in the house. Oh, yeah, looking like we got a good little crowd going here. Let's see now. Let's see who's on the that quaint little alternative social media platform known as YouTube. Gypsy's in the house this morning. Mwah! Good morning, my dear. Glad to see you. My favorite crazy Canadian, Adam, is in the house. Good to have you here. As we've said hello to Z Highness, representing the 199. The Duke is here. Good morning, Duke. Let's see who else be here. Let's see who be here. The Porch Hounds have been baying for you, Brian. I tell you what, I have, like I said, between illness and travel, it has been rough. I mean, even last week was still rough, but I'll get into that here in just a moment. No, I am really, really glad to see you guys. I am. It's a rainy Saturday morning where I am. And so, I mean, I'm sure you, I mean, depending on where you guys are at, I mean, I know some of y'all are like exempt from some of this, but man, we here in the South, maybe from about West Virginia on down, have been just getting pummeled with rain, high winds. The lady in my life, who lives in the Natty, as she calls it, which is Cincinnati, she's a couple of nights she had to spend in her basement because of the high winds in the area. So it's been bad for everybody. TBA asked the question, how was the comedy club last weekend? You know, I'm glad you asked me that, and I'm going to get into that story here in just one moment. So yes, we'll talk about that. But it's raining here in my area, and for those of you who know where I live, there is a certain geographic body of water that runs parallel to my neighborhood, very close to it anyway. And believe me, when we get this much rain in such a short amount of time, we all start looking over that creek bank going, anybody know what's going on? Fortunately, for those of us who live in this area of my hometown, we have not had any bad things happen yet. And my working theory is if we can get through today, we're going to be all right. I mean, yeah, there's going to be some quick downpours of rain, and it'll be substantial. But if we can get through today without the water going over the creek banks, we're going to be all right. So anyway, now to last weekend. As a lot of you know, I traveled out to the Midwest. Chrissy Mayer was performing at the Fort Wayne Comedy Club in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Well, it's probably better to call it New Haven, Indiana, to be proper. But the show was great, TBA, to answer your question. I mean, I went for a lot of reasons. And I'll get into it briefly here. Not that I necessarily need to, but just for the purposes of discussion. It had been a little while since Chrissy had done live stand up. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say that she's diminished in anything at all. She is absolutely extraordinary, time off or not. But I thought, first time back from doing this in a while, it might be helpful to see a friendly face in the crowd. Plus, I have always said that where Chrissy Mayer is concerned, I will always try to support her efforts because I think she's one of the hardest working women that I know, regardless of profession. I mean, this girl hosts live streams. She's doing interviews. It's just insane the schedule that this woman keeps. And plus, on top of that, she's now a married lady and, a stepmom and also a mother in her own right. So now she's got the bean and all that. So, I'll always support Chrissy whenever I can. Plus, the lady had never seen Chrissy Mayer live. And when I saw in proximity to where the lady lives, I said, hey, you want to go see a live comedy show? She's like, who is it, Chrissy Mayer? She's like, yep, I'm in. So, yeah, we had a load of fun. Chrissy was fantastic, by the way. And for the record, the two local comedians who was out there, along with the MC, they all did a certain amount of stand-up. But they were fantastic. I mean, the show was absolutely great. And the comedy club had a very nice setting to it. It really did. So I think Chrissy had a load of fun doing it. And I know for my part, I had a blast. The lady enjoyed it very much. So, yeah, it was a real good time. So, TBA, I hope that answers your question. But, yeah, absolutely. It's, it was a load of fun. And I have to give you guys an apology, kind of explain myself for last week. Normally, when I come off of a weekend where I don't do a live stream, I try to put out videos. And I'm not going to lie, I don't know what was wrong with me last week. I don't know if it was still lingering illness or what, but I couldn't find the energy to do jack crap. I'm serious. I was bad off. I did not know what was wrong with me. I mean, I'd get to the end of the day and I'm like, I don't want to touch it. I don't feel like touching it. I don't want to do anything. And finally, this is probably the first time, it's the first time in forever that I've actually felt good enough that it's like, okay, I mean, I need to get back to doing what I'm doing, So, yeah, I'm personally glad to be here. TBA says, did you have a bad case of the Mondays too? We old timers call that burnout. Well, I don't know about burnout, but it just, like I say, I wasn't any good to anybody last week. So, but yeah, we're here. We're having fun. We're glad to be back. I'm glad to see all you guys. I really am. I really am glad to see all of you guys. It's good to be here. And we got some stuff lined up. We've got a few merry memes. We got some stories I definitely want to talk about the tariffs. I mean, we got to get into this subject. We just got to get into that. So, yeah. So let's just dive right in. And I want to thank Adam and I want to thank WWG1 for their contributions to the merry memes this morning. And yeah, so I have always said that sometimes life is truly, truly a matter of perspective. You need to know when, where, and why certain things happen. And you also need to step back and look at the totality that is your life. And with that in mind, we start off with our first merry meme, and this is compliments of WWG1. And I'm just going to let this one sit up here and let you guys think about it for a second. You can always choose to be the bigger person, but being the reason HR makes a new policy is much, much more exciting. Hang on a second. Yeah, I can't disagree with this one, to be perfectly honest with you. I cannot disagree with this at all. Yeah, Adam's like, here, absolutely, here. Yeah, I totally, I can't disagree with this one in the slightest. No reason at all why you should not be more exciting whenever altogether possible. So, There you go. TBA says, so being the office pain in the ass is better. Now, wait a minute. Now, hold on now. Like I said, this is a matter of perspective. Just because a new HR policy has been created does not necessarily mean that you are the office pain in the ass. Matter of fact, you might have enlivened the office without being a pain in the ass. So I'm just saying. Old Salty Fart says, I really hate to have to not disagree with that meme. You guys are great. I love you. You guys are absolutely ridiculous, and I am here for it. Okay. I tell you what, the new Trump second term has been rough for everybody. Well, let me rephrase that. It's been rough on the celebrity class in this country. I don't know what I don't know what TDS does to you physically. I know what it does to you emotionally and mentally, but apparently TDS has some very nasty physical side effects as well. As a matter of fact, I tell you what, the next time you see Bruno Mars, please offer up some prayers for Bruno. Okay. Bruno's having it rough. Bruno is looking very, very rough. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, the next time you talk to old Bruno, definitely say some prayers for Bruno Mars. Very talented musician, singer, dancer. But man, I guess Trump derangement syndrome is working hard on the poor kid. So, it ain't easy. It ain't easy. That's all I'm saying. So, there you go. Poor old Bruno Mars. Yes, TBA, that is Lori Lightfoot from Chicago, but and again, the era of Trump is tough on a lot of different, groups. For even the Democrats are having problems. Not just the ones on Capitol Hill, by the way. Now they've got an even bigger problem. Okay. For the past 3 or 4 years, on their Twitter accounts or their Facebooks or whatever, they've been flying the Ukrainian flag in their profiles on Twitter and Facebook and other places. Well, now they're like, what do you do? Well, apparently they've switched countries. So if you happen to now see these Twitter pages and these Facebook pages and Instagram and other such things, they're not flying the Ukrainian flag anymore. They're flying the French flag. So I just want you guys to be aware that this is going on, and, treat your friends accordingly. That's all I'm saying. Just, even though they're flying a flag that you may not agree with, I'm just saying, be kind to them. They're trying, folks. They really are. And they've at least moved away from the Ukraine flag to the French flag. So there you go. There you go. Bless their hearts. Oh, what else have we got here by way of the merry memes? Oh, yes. The past couple of days have been very rough on people who are who have investments. Trump announced his new tariff policy, his reciprocal tariff policy on Tuesday, and it's been a very rough stock market for folks, and we are all affected by this. Okay, if you have a 401k and you're still employed and you're still making contributions to it, you probably look at that thing going, oh man, or if you're retired and maybe you took your 401k and you put it into a regular investment account or whatever. It's been rough for the past few days. Okay. And some people are reacting to it better than others. Now, some people are acting more out of an act of, ignorance than anything else. And by ignorance, I mean having never been through this before, they don't know quite how to react. So with that in mind, we have found a something that I think you guys will appreciate. This is this is a good example of the reaction of somebody out in the market who's going through one of these ups and down phases for the very first time. Folks, with that, check this out, and I think you'll get something of a chuckle out of it. Although I think the music is very. Now, see, this person seems to have a good handle on how to deal with the ups and downs of the current market. I mean, seriously, look, check this one out. Just flying around, just having themselves the time of it. Look at this. Oh my gosh, this person obviously has never been through a bear market, but they're just winging it and going with it, baby. So God bless them. That's all I'm saying. Oh my Lord, too funny, too tech on funny. Adam says, "Is it going to catch fire like a winter?" Now that I have no idea, no idea. Could not tell you on that one. So don't know what to tell you. All right, one last thing, and I think you guys are going to get quite the kick out of this. I found this morning, and like I said, everything is a matter of perspective. Okay, is a matter of perspective. So I'm just going to put this up here and just let you guys think about it. So for most Democrats, 2 years ago to flatten the curve, yes, 2 days of tariffs. I mean, just some people need some perspective here. Okay. All right. With that, like I said, I want to thank Adam and I want to thank WWG1 for their contributions. So, these are really pretty funny. Truly, they are. All right. Let's and that right there kind of gets us into the first topic of the morning. Okay. And I want to talk about this, and I'm going to tell you guys up front. I mean, you know me. When it comes to live streaming and commentary, I'm kind of like a jack of all trades. There's very few subjects that I will not touch. Okay. Some of them I may do more delicately than others for various reasons, but I'll take on all comers. And I think this discussion about tariffs is one of those subjects we kind of need to get into for a lot of reasons. Okay. Because what is happening right now is a lot of things simultaneously. I think you have a revelation of perspective. That's number one. Now, what do I mean by revelation of perspective? What I mean is this. You have two different groups of people looking at the actions and the effects of what Trump is doing, and their reaction to it is very telling. It's very revealing. For example, the investor class right now, and by investor class, I mean the Wall Street, aficionados, the people in the know, as it were, the people who are, who make the pronouncements about how the world works. They're all just aghast at what Trump's doing. They're like, "Oh my God, he's destroying a bull market. He's turning it into a bear market. We're going to lose so much money and yada, yada, yada. Oh my God." The American people are sitting here going, "Hell yeah, it's about time somebody did this. If they're going to tariff our stuff going in, how come we can't tariff their stuff coming back?" I saw a matter of fact, can I find it real fast? I probably can. Give me 1 second here. I saw a great tweet from Selena Zito, who, as y'all know, is absolutely one of my totally favorite writers. And she covers Selena. It's Selena. There we go. She covers Western Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, Indiana, Tennessee, like nobody's business. Okay. And she had an absolutely, yeah, here it is. Here it is. I'm going to pop this up here. And I want to read this to you guys. This is the region that I report out of. She's talking about in response to Weirton, West Virginia. There is a great swath of this country where, whether it's Appalachia Midwest, the Plains cattle ranchers, or manufacturers everywhere, they have a different worldview than those melting down over the tariffs. They are more than willing to wait and see if this works because what we've been doing hasn't. And I tell you what, and I'm going to leave that up there. I think Selena Zito is absolutely right. I think the American people, a big chunk of them, okay? Matter of fact, let me put that back up there again. Sorry. I think a big chunk of the American people, okay? Matter of fact, that tweet is so good, I have got to put this in chat. There we go. That will let you guys look at it at your convenience. But I think she's absolutely right. There is a big swath of the American people that are like, you know what? What we've been doing for the past 30, 40, 50 years, it ain't working. How many towns, be it in West Virginia, my home state, or Western Pennsylvania, or Eastern Ohio, or anywhere in Ohio for that matter? Why stop with the Mahoning Valley? Okay. Or Michigan, or Indiana, or Minnesota, or name the state. How many small towns that used to have strong manufacturing bases that are now just gone? 40 or 50 years. Okay. 40 or 50 years. And they're gone. And Kawan, I'm going to be perfectly straight up with you. I do not have a good explanation for that one. Unless the only thing that I could possibly think of, as an answer to that question is if you have another major country, like let's say China, for example, and China is manufacturing something in that country where we otherwise would never put a tariff on them. And that way someone's like, oh, the Chinese think they're going to get around this by, manufacturing and shipping it out of another country. That would be my only logical thing I could think of as to why. But that's the best answer I got for you, brother. So you've got a big swath of the American people that are looking at what's going on going, okay, we know what we have been doing up to now doesn't work. Let's see if what Trump is proposing is going to work. So I think you got the first thing is, like I said, you have a revelation of perspective on this. You've got the aficionado, Wall Street, masters of the universe proclaiming that everything is going to go to hell. Okay. And then you got a big swath of the American people like, oh, hang on. Let's give this a chance. Okay. So you got that going on. Yeah. And this is another thing that drove out a lot of manufacturing. Absolutely. Oh, this is okay. The Australian tariff had to do with their refusal to buy American beef. Okay. We'll see what happens. Thank you for that, ladies. Thank you for both of those. The second thing I think you have going on is, And I don't think this is an exaggeration either. I think you have a legitimate attempt to reorder the world economy. Okay. I mean, look, say what you want to about Donald Trump. God knows everybody will. Okay. Donald Trump has been on this message about unfair trade practices with other countries. He's been talking about this for going on 50 years. Okay. Going all the way back to the 80s. All right. And now now that he has the levers of power and an unfettered second term, he's going to go for it. He's going to try. He's going to try and see if this is going to work. Oh, you know what? Hey, if Australia wants to put on tariffs. No one's ever said any of these countries can't put on tariffs. Which, by the way, I got a clip from Victor Davis Hanson here in a minute that gives some really interesting perspective. I'm not saying if they want to put on tariffs and if they feel that's protecting their interest, go ahead. All Trump's saying is, all right, you're going to do it to us, we're going to do it to you. You know, so you have the second thing I think is going on. You have a legitimate attempt, and when I say legitimate, I mean I don't think this is exaggeration. I don't think it's hyperbole. I think you have Donald Trump wanting to reorder how America does business with the world and vice versa. So you've got that going on. Okay. I also think that you have in what Trump is doing a legitimate long-term attempt to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. or to rev up our manufacturing base again. Now that's going to take a little bit of time. And that's the part about this that I'm not sure, even if Trump knows how it's going to turn out. I think he knows what he wants to see happen. But how long it would actually take to happen, yet to be determined. So with that, let's get into some discussions about this. We've got some clips. We've got various things. And I want to start with Fox Business. What to know about President Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. The Trump administration has said foreign countries have reached out to negotiate over lower tariffs, which we're going to get into that here in a second, too. Article by Eric Revell, we have the following. Dateline, Washington, D.C. President Donald Trump has announced his latest plans for tariffs on Wednesday. Wait a minute. Hold it.
Down about
Stuart, hush your mouth. Boy. There we go. Let's try that again. Donald Trump has announced his latest plan for tariffs on Wednesday afternoon during an event at the White House Rose Garden, which he said he's going to focus on imposing reciprocal tariffs on U.S. trading partners. Trump's Liberation Day tariff announcement comes after the conclusion of the trading day for U.S. financial markets, which have been rattled by uncertainty over tariffs in recent weeks. The S&P 500 is down about 3.9% for year to date. Hang on. Excuse me. And the U.S. benchmark index gains since Trump's election in November have been erased amid concerns about widening trade war. Quote, April 2nd, 2025 will forever be remembered as the day American industry was reborn, Trump said in remarks from the Rose Garden. In a few moments, I will sign a historic executive order instituting reciprocal tariffs around the world. Reciprocal, that means they do it to us, we do it to them. Very simple. You can't get any simpler than that. This is one of the most important days, in my opinion, in American history. It is our declaration of economic independence. For years, hardworking American citizens were forced to sit out on the sidelines as other nations got rich and powerful, much of it at our expense. But now it is our turn to prosper, and in doing so, use trillions and trillions of dollars to reduce our taxes and pay down our national debt, and it will all happen very quickly. What are these tariffs? The executive order outlining reciprocal tariffs is expected to be released later on Wednesday. The president indicated that aside from the reciprocal tariffs, the administration would establish a minimum baseline tariff of 10%. And here is a list of some of the countries you're getting. China's getting a 34% reciprocal tariff. The European Union, 20%. Vietnam, 46%. Japan, 24%. India, 26%. South Korea, 25%. Taiwan, 32%. But you will notice the first half of that. China's got a 67% tariff on American is tariffs, barriers, trade deficit. European Union has a 39% tariff on us, 90% tariff out of Vietnam, 46% out of Japan, 52% out of India, 50% out of South Korea, 64% out of Taiwan. Okay. So let's talk about this for a second. For the record, I am all for but now before some of y'all lefties out there, and y'all know you do watch this live stream, you just don't want to admit it. Before some of y'all lefties out there just get bent out of shape, I am all for trade between countries. What you would call free trade. Okay. However, I do have a problem with our manufacturers here in the U.S. trying to sell their goods overseas, but because it's coming from the United States, the country in which we're trying to do business slaps a 25% tariff or a 30% tariff, on our goods coming in. But and you know what? I don't even necessarily have a problem with them slapping a tariff on. Let me back that up a second. Because you know what? They are a sovereign nation. They've got the right to do it. I think my bigger problem is we don't do anything to try to level that out until now. Okay? Until now, nobody in the U.S. government, by and large, has done nothing to try to level this out. Okay? Nobody. Trump is maybe the first president, and there have been some presidents who've used tariffs, don't get me wrong, but not to this extent. Not with this kind of ferocity. Not with this kind of, hey, we're all going to play on the same field here, and the field's going to be level, or we're not going to play the game at all. I've never seen an American president in my lifetime, and I'm 53 years old, I have never seen an American president use tariffs the way Donald Trump is doing it. Okay? So like I said, it's not necessarily even that the other country is putting a tariff on us. They've got the right to do it. It's just that our politicians here don't do anything to try to negate the effect of it or try to get it eliminated. Trump wants it eliminated. Okay? TBA over on Rumble says Trump is realigning the global trade and beating to crap any country that dares to keep misusing the U.S.'s good people. Can't disagree with that at all, my friend. Cannot disagree with that at all. Very, very true. All right, back to that article. There's a couple other things in there I want to get to. Aside from the reciprocal tariff plan, going a little bit further into the article, here we go. The Trump administration has also discussed across-the-board tariff of up to 20%, as well as a plan to focus tariffs on 15 countries with high levels of trade with the U.S. and relatively high tariff rates. Those plans appear to be tabled in favor of the reciprocal tariff plan time being. White House may also launch its External Revenue Service to oversee tariff collection by moving that responsibility from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to the new ERS within the Commerce Department. The Trump administration contends that external companies and countries pay tariffs, though economists broadly agree that they are paid by the importing company, which would in this case be U.S. firms. Trump imposed 25% tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada, with a carve-out for a lower 10% tariff rate on Canadian energy products, then delayed those tariffs from taking effect on goods covered by the USMCA, which is a trade agreement we have with Canada and Mexico, at which time his new tariffs will replace them. Trump's administration's tariff team has been working on structuring the tariffs and negotiating with a number of countries. The team includes President Trump, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer, and National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Levitt said on Tuesday that quite a few countries have reached out to the Trump administration to discuss ways to lower the tariffs. Oh, I'll bet they have. Okay. And that is something else that people do not realize. They do not realize about what Trump is doing. Everybody's like, oh my God, he's taking a hammer. He's smashing everything to pieces. This is awful. This is terrible. I can't believe it. Yada, yada, yada. May I respectfully point out some things? For example, tariffs or the threat thereof has any number of different effects. One of them is get somebody to sit down and talk to you. Well, that's happening with at least 2 or 3 countries. I got a story here from Merco Press. Javier Milei says negotiations for zero tariffs with the U.S. are underway. And this was from an article from Friday. Argentinian President Javier Milei said during a conservative event in Florida that his country was negotiating with Donald Trump's administration a zero tariff deal on approximately 50 export products, aiming for a potential free trade agreement shortly. Milei's remarks came after the Republican leader slapped a 10% tariff on all Argentine goods as a part of a broader protectionist policy. Speaking at the American Patriots Gala hosted by conservative groups Make America Clean Again and We Fund the Blue at Mar-a-Lago, where he received the Lion of Liberty Award for his commitment to freedom and free market values, Milei outlined plans to adjust Argentine regulations to meet U.S. reciprocity demands. Joining the libertarian leader were ministers Luis Toto Caputo, apparently he's the minister for the economy in Argentina, and Gerardo Wertheim, who's the minister for foreign affairs. Milei highlighted progress in resolving trade barriers, noting that 5 of 8 initial issues have been addressed, with further steps pending. The negotiations aim to enhance trade flow for key exports, which represent 80% of Argentina's sales to the U.S., without disrupting ties with Mercosur. The South American head of state also emphasized his goal of making Argentina the freest economy in the world and touted his administration's economic achievements, reportedly including 6% growth and lifting 20% of the population out of poverty since December 2023. Quote, for all these objectives and measures, the whole of politics, the media, the unions, and many businessmen accommodated by the previous regime repeated over and over again it was impossible to function. Our reform agenda continues because our goal is to be the freest country in the world. Argentina is going to move forward in readjusting the regulations so that they comply with the requirements of the reciprocal tariff proposals drafted by Donald Trump. It's already happening. The tariffs serve any number of functions, okay? Any number of functions. But one of them is to get a country to sit down and say, hey, can we do better here for both of us? And now you got somebody like a Javier Milei who's very free market oriented. I told somebody this morning, I absolutely love Javier Milei. Love that man to death. Because for the first time that I can really remember, a free market economist is taking economic policy, implementing it in government action, and now you're seeing the results of what happens when free market economics meets governmental action. It's bettering the Argentinian people. I'm not saying it's perfect, don't get me wrong. And there are things that we would do that they wouldn't do, and vice versa. But it's kind of obvious to anybody looking at it, Argentina's on a better path than they've been in a long time. I mean, that country had an inflation rate, which, don't get me wrong, it's still high, but they had an inflation rate that was just sky high. Now it's starting to come down. Housing prices are starting to come down. Growth in their economies is starting to go up. So, that's just one example of it. Israel has been in contact with the Trump administration. I got a story here from Reuters. Netanyahu has spoken to Trump about tariffs, officials say. I want to go further into this article. Apparently, they're going to have a meeting, I guess, sometime next week. But here, Netanyahu raised the issue in his phone call on Thursday while on a visit to Hungary. Most of it can be solved. An Israeli finance minister said Thursday that Trump's latest tariff could impact exports on machinery and equipment. Israel has already moved to cancel its remaining tariffs on U.S. imports as of Tuesday. So, yeah, you've got Israel saying, okay, before this even gets started, let's just get out of it. Okay. So there you got Israel stepping up saying, okay, no tariffs, no tariffs. We don't want it. Because most of these countries realize something. We slap tariffs on what's coming in from their country. Their economies cannot take this. Okay. Their economies can't take a tariff fight. We can stand it in the short term and in the long term if you get right down to it. Got one more here. Vietnam, we were going to slap, I think it was like a 35, 40% tariff on Vietnamese goods. Guess what's happening? This is from Donald Trump's Truth Social. Had a very productive call with To Lam, General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam, who told me that Vietnam wants to cut their tariffs down to zero if they're able to make an agreement with the U.S. I thanked him on behalf of our country, and I said look forward to a meeting in the near future. It's already happening, folks. It's already happening. The tariffs or even the threat of their imposition. But now we're past the threat. It's on. It's game on. Okay? Countries are coming to Trump going, hey, man, what can we do here? You don't want tariffs. We don't want tariffs. Okay, what can we do here? Now, could these countries, double cross us down the line? Yeah, it's possible. But at this moment, Trump's doing something that, like I said, no American president that I can remember has ever done. He is using tariffs in such a degree and on such a widespread scale that we might just get a reordering of the world economy out of all this. And I said I had a clip from Victor Davis Hanson, and I do. And I want to play this for you guys because there are some things to consider here. And Hanson is absolutely one of my favorites. But he makes a really good point with relation to tariffs. This clip runs about 1:30. I'm going to play it in its entirety. And I may stop it where I think it's appropriate. But this I think you guys ought to hear. And with that, check this out from Victor Davis Hanson.
China has prohibitive tariffs. So does Vietnam. So does Mexico. So does Europe. So do a lot of countries. So does India. But if tariffs are so destructive of their economies, why is China booming? How did India become an economic powerhouse when it has these exorbitant tariffs on American imports? How did Vietnam, of all places, become such a different country, even though it has these prohibitive tariffs?
Okay, hold on. I do want to stop and address one thing here, okay? And I'm probably going to wind up reaching out to Doc McCutcheon on this because this gets into her wheelhouse. I think Victor Davis Hanson's oversimplifying this just a little bit, okay? It may not have been just the tariffs. There's a lot of factors as to why those countries that he listed became economic powerhouses, okay? But there's no denying the tariffs helped them. And Victor Davis Hanson makes a very valid point. If tariffs are the great evil, oh no, I agree. I don't disagree with you, brother. I don't disagree with you. But if tariffs are the great evil that the Wall Street aficionado crowd says they are, why are all these other countries using them? That's a fair question. That's a very fair question. I'd kind of like to know. So anyway, let's go back to this clip, play a little more of it, and get you guys' reaction to it. And with that, 3, 2, 1.
Why isn't Germany, before its energy problems, why wasn't it a wreck? It's got tariffs on almost everything that we send them. How is the EU even functioning with these tariffs? I thought tariffs destroyed an economy, but they seem to like them, and they're angry that they're no longer asymmetrical. Apparently, our people who are tariffing us think tariffs improve their economy. Maybe they're right. I don't know. The second thing is, why would you get angry at the person who is reacting to the asymmetrical tariff and not the people who inaugurated the tariff? Why is Canada mad at us when it's running a $63 billion surplus and it has tariffs on some American products at 250%? Doesn't it seem like the people who started this asymmetrical, if I could use the word trade war, should be the culpable people, not the people who are reluctantly reacting to it?
And again, that's a very valid point, by the way. Something to consider. Why is everybody getting mad at Trump? Okay, now don't get me wrong. There's a lot of reasons why, and I kind of get that. But Victor Davis Hanson does make a valid point. Why is everybody getting mad at Trump for reacting to the fact, hey, you're slapping tariffs on our stuff? Well, by God, you're going to do that to us? I'm doing it to you. No, you can't do that. Wait a minute. You're the ones that started this. You're the ones that slapped tariffs on our stuff. Yet you're mad at me for trying to protect my people and our manufacturing base and our workers, but you're the ones that started it. If you ought to be mad at anybody, you ought to be mad at yourselves. I'm sorry. Say what you want to about Hanson in this, but he's right. If they're going to get mad at anybody, they ought to get mad at themselves for the fact that they finally woke up an American president and an American people who said, oh, the hell with this. To hell with this. We're going to start, you do it to us, we're going to do it to you. TBA over on Rumble says, everyone's getting mad at Trump because Trump is showing the world their hypocrisy. I can't disagree with that. Salty Old Fart says, we could bankrupt other countries with their tariffs. True. Yeah. Now, this is a good point up in Connecticut. I agree with this. Hyundai announced a new car factory in Indiana, and this week revised it for an even bigger factory. How can the Dems be unhappy about more jobs, especially more UAW jobs? And that's something else that people aren't stopping to think about. Donald Trump has said consistently, hey, look, you don't want to suffer the effects of tariffs? Build your stuff in the U.S. We won't charge you a dime. And not only that, depending on if you manufacture here in the U.S., we'll give you a tax rate of, say, 15%. How do you get mad at that? No, this is true too. This is true. Which, by the way, that's the one thing about whatever it is I've got that's driving me nuts. I cannot get over this cough. The lady says I'm going to be afflicted with this for another 3 or 4 weeks. I really hope she's wrong. But given that she's a nurse, probably not. Now those nurses are. Anyway, I'm just kidding, dear. But yeah. Why? Why get mad at Trump over this? Trump's trying to offer you a deal. You can take it if you want to. If you don't want to take it, fine. It's up to you. Build it here in the U.S., we won't charge you a tariff. Build it here in the U.S., we'll give you a business corporate tax rate of 15%. Oh, I'm not surprised by this. I'm not surprised by this at all. And this is something that is another effect of what Trump is doing. Okay. Trump is forcing a debate, a rethinking, whatever you want to call it, between old school free trade Republicans, of which, and don't get me wrong, I love Chuck Grassley. I love that man. I think he's one of the best things that Iowa ever exported to the United States. Grassley, McConnell, and others. And more populist conservatives like Trump, J.D. Vance, and others. We're about to have a good old-fashioned Donnybrook of a fight over, economic policy as it relates to, tariffs, trade, manufacturing, etc. And frankly, this is a debate that's been long overdue. Okay? Back in the 80s and the 90s, oh, we need free trade. We need free trade. We need free trade. I was one of those people. I will freely admit it. I was one of those people. And as we got free trade, we also got our cities and our towns hollowed out. Manufacturing left. Businesses that go along with the manufacturing left, etc. Maybe it's time we go back and look at what we did and say to ourselves, are we really sure this is what we should have done? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got Rand Paul squawking about this. Yeah, and NAFTA was the kickoff. And Reagan was the one that proposed NAFTA to start with. Reagan was the one that kicked off NAFTA. WWG1 says, negative, Brian. That was the illusion of free trade. We were lied to. Yeah, look, 30 or 40 years of the results of that policy now, oh yeah, I can't disagree with that at all. Cannot disagree with that in the slightest. Now, salty old fart brings up a point over there on Rumble. The midterms are going to be very interesting. And that, from a political standpoint, is one of the interesting calculations about what Trump is doing. Trump is racing the clock. And here's what I'm getting at. Trump is betting that the economic benefit of what he's doing will be seen on or about the middle of 2026 going into the election. And I'm going to be honest with you. The most important political fight Trump's got right now is hanging on to the House of Representatives in 2026. Otherwise, you've got a repeat of what happened in the first term. If Hakeem Jeffries becomes Speaker, his objective is going to be to impeach Donald Trump for what will be the third time. So, yeah, the midterms are going to get real interesting. And like I said, where this tariff story is concerned, God, there's just so many different angles to it. Okay. Oh, yeah, yeah, dear, they'll try to impeach him every day. Every daggone day they'll try and do it. No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. Very true, Zippy. Very true. Yeah, and that's right. Clinton was the one that signed it. Gingrich helped him push it through. One of the biggest mistakes we ever made. I mean, I will never forget the debate on Larry King Live that Ross Perot had with then Vice President Al Gore. I will never forget this. Say what you want to about Perot, okay? But he had a colorful way of expressing things. And one of the colorful expressions for which he is remembered from that debate, he said, "You hear that giant sucking sound, Larry? That giant sucking sound is all of our manufacturing base going down to Mexico or going up to Canada. But it ain't going to stay in the United States. Yep, that's the one. Yep, you got it. That giant sucking sound. That's the one. And you know what? Perot wasn't wrong. He's been proven right. Now, like I say, there's stuff that Ross Perot proposed that I definitely did not agree with. But on that point, he was spot on. It just took time for him to be proven right. And he was. And now you've got somebody in Trump who's willing to take that fight on and go, guys, if we're going to save the country, if we're even going to have a country, we need to reverse policy here. We need to reverse policy. Monetarists are nothing but the lords of old slave empires. It's a good way of putting it, Zippy. That's a real good way of putting it. Now, I've tried to find some threads that really give some different perspective about all this. I mean, like I said a moment ago, hang on. Like I said a moment ago, there are a whole bunch of moving parts inside this story about the tariffs. And I mean, again, it's kind of overwhelming in one sense. I mean, it's kind of like, how do you eat an elephant? Well, you take one bite at a time. Well, sometimes where this story is concerned, you got to take bites of it. But I found a really good thread on Twitter, which brings some things into perspective that I had not quite considered. And here's one of them. This is written by Tanvi Ratna. She is big into crypto, a bunch of other things. And she's got a really good point that people aren't stopping to think about. I want to read this for you guys. Trump's new tariffs aren't a trade tweak. They're the first move in a full spectrum reset. Now listen to this. $9.2 trillion of U.S. debt matures in 2025. Now think about that for a second. Inflation lingers, alliances are shifting. One announcement just set a dozen wheels in motion. Here's what's happening and why it matters. Start with the debt. $9.2 trillion must be refinanced in 2025. So keep in mind, $37 trillion of U.S. debt on face value. So you've got about a third of it that has to be refinanced this year. Okay? This year. Here's the point she's making. If rolled into 10-year bonds, every 1 basis point drop in rates saves approximately $1 billion a year. So even a half a point drop would save $500 billion over a decade. Lower yields free up fiscal room. Without them, core spending gets crowded out. Okay. How do you push yields down with sticky inflation and a cautious Fed? You manufacture uncertainty, you sweep in with tariffs, spook the markets, trigger a risk sell-off, money exits stocks, floods into long-term treasuries. A deliberate detox to cool the economy, but cut the refinancing cost. And I want to go to something real fast. Oh, very informative thread. And I think it was you who sent this to me, so thank you so much. If it wasn't you, it was somebody else. But I mean, we're going to keep on reading this thing. Yeah, it is all about the bond market. I want to show you guys something because the point that she's making is this. It's like, look, you've got $9.5 trillion. $9.5 trillion of debt that's got to be refinanced just this year. Okay? Just this year. How do you do that and make this work? Well, let me show you what's happening already because of what Trump's doing. Let me find it here real fast. Oh, come on. Where are the bonds? Come on. There it is. I want to pop this up on the screen. Well, let me back up a second. Here we go. The Dow Jones Industrial Average. Everybody's screaming about the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones. Oh my God. We're losing money hand over fist. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah, you're right. It's probably down, 7.5% since Wednesday? On Friday, it lost over 2,200 points, right? Okay. Now notice something else. Remember what she said. Let me go back to it. How do you push yields down? If you're going to use a 10-year treasury bonds to refinance that debt, so how do you do that when you've got sticky inflation and a cautious Fed? You sweep in with tariffs, spook the markets, trigger a sell-off. Okay? Here's the sell-off. Everybody is flying, absolutely flying out of equities. Okay? But watch where they're going. Here's the 10-year US Treasury. It's now down below 4%. Now, I will freely admit, I am no expert on this stuff. Okay? I just read things. I try to make sense of them, but she's got a very valid point. And again, I want to go back to this. Money exits the stocks, floods into long-term treasuries. Now, this was as of what? Thursday, maybe? Yeah, maybe it's a Thursday. She wrote this. Yeah, she wrote this Thursday. Okay. The 10-year treasury at that time was running a little over 4%. It's now running a little under 4 and could still yet go lower. What's the net benefit of that? Remember what she said. Every 1 basis point drop in rates saves approximately $1 billion over the year. You drop it a half a point. You save $500 million, $500 billion over 10 years. Zippy with a Rumble rant. Loan, investment, and debt are the same as blackjack, slot machines, and roulette. We worship the bank, yet loathe the casino. Make it make sense. Don't disagree with you, brother. All right. Back to this thread, because there's some really good stuff in here to think about. But cheap refinancing isn't enough on its own. Even at lower rates, the debt remains enormous. That's where the next lever comes in. You cut the deficit. Elon and Doge are cutting $4 billion a day. At that pace, they shave off $1 trillion by the end of September 25th, if not by May. With these savings, the economic pillar to successfully deliver on Besant's 3-3-3 plan is to get growth up. Tariffs come in to trigger domestic industrial revival. The thinking is by making imports expensive, you create room for U.S. producers to step in. But here's the problem. American factories can't scale up overnight. So in the short term, consumers face higher prices. The administration knows this. That's why they're front-loading the pain now, betting that by 2026, the benefits will be visible. And that's a great point. Salty old fart over on Rumble said the 2026 midterms are going to be interesting. And he's right. That's what Trump is betting on. I can get we can front load the economic pain that this is going to cause right now. And by 2026, the offshoots to this thing, the green shoots, start showing up. It's risky. Politically, it's risky. Economically, what he's doing makes perfect sense. There's just going to, and again, there are people far better and far smarter at this sort of thing than I am. But if Trump's right, if he's right, then we're headed for a complete reorientation. A complete reorientation of not just the U.S. economy, but the world economy. Here's somebody else who's backing up the point that young lady was making. Hang on one second. Tariffs are not the story. Since Trump took office, the 10-year yield has dropped from 4.79 to 4.17. Look how much it's dropped today. That's 0.62 drop. May not sound like much when you realize we got $36.5 trillion in debt. It's a stealth refinancing on historic scales. Lower the yields, trillions in interest savings, more breathing room, less inflationary pressure, and the market is front-running it. Everyone's watching the tariffs, but the yield curve shift, that's the real game. Trump isn't just cutting spending, he's restructuring America's balance sheet in real time. And that is a great point. TBA over on Rumble says, combine that with no tax on tips, Social Security, and overtime, get rid of the IRS and the Federal Reserve, go to a gold-backed dollar, and we will be in the cream. I think that's where he's going with this. Yeah, no, look, Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, makes a very valid point, at least from my perspective, okay? When you've got an economy that is so addicted to government spending, and then you try and take the economy off of that, it's like taking a drug addict off their favorite drug. The withdrawal is going to be hell. Truly, it will. It will be awful. Just plain awful. Okay? That's what we're going through right now. Did you notice in the latest jobs report that came out on Friday? First of all, it blew past expectations. Economists were expecting us to create like 148,000 jobs in the U.S. in the month of March. We wound up creating 228,000. Yay! I'm all down for that. Did you notice that most of it came in the private sector? Not the government. And if you go back through the Biden years, most of what was created were government jobs. And there's a whole bunch of things you can say about the jobs reports that Biden put out. I mean, Lord, we could do like a whole segment on just that. Okay. Couple of more points. Here's one that I think is really good. And I up in Connecticut sent me this one. I'm going to play this. And this is a young man you may have seen on Twitter. His name is Gettr Gevers. Okay. But man, he makes some really, really valid points as it relates to this. And I want you guys to hear it because this is good. Okay. So let me get this set up. Check this out. Tell me what you guys think.
Whatever you think of Trump, his economic plan makes complete sense. The US has 36 trillion in debt. In 2025, they will spend 6 trillion, but will only collect 4 trillion in revenue. So they need to borrow 2 trillion, and this will increase their debt to 38 trillion. Trump's economic plan is based on 3 levers. Number 1, cut expenses by 1 trillion, which is Doge, Elon Musk. He's targeting waste and fraud, like social security payments for people who are 150 years old. That is just fraud. 2, increasing revenue by 1 to 2 trillion through, number 1, tariffs. They will increase tariffs from 50 billion to 500 billion target. People will say, but other countries will retaliate. They will not be able to do it. The US is the biggest customer on earth. They consume 20 trillion every year. They are the biggest importer. They import 3 trillion every year. Plus, the current tariffs is actually not fair. Why should US cars entering Europe faces 10% tariffs, while the European cars entering the US just pay 2.5%? It's not fair. And because of the tariff changes, it now makes economic sense to build factories and businesses inside the US again. That means more jobs, means tax-paying businesses, and more foreign investment coming in. He will also increase revenue by deregulation. He will remove unnecessary regulations and rules, making it easier to do business, so business can grow faster, generate more tax revenues. He also make this gold card, which is offering lifetime US residency for 5 million. I think at least 1 or 2 million individuals globally can afford it. So if just 10% of them, if just 100,000 people buy this card, that's 1 trillion in incremental revenue. The third lever is he will reduce taxes. if he successfully cut 1 trillion in waste and expenses and add 1 to 2 trillion in revenue, the US will have a surplus. They will have more money than they want. So he will cut taxes for individuals. Anyone gaining more than 150K, he will make them pay 0 taxes. And on corporate taxes, he will go down from the current 21% to 15%, compared to the European average of 22%. France average is 25, I think, and Germany is 30. So at 15% corporate tax, the US will become one of the most business attractive countries on earth. Bottom line, this is exactly how a government should be run, efficiently. Because when you eliminate waste, the money can actually go where it is actually needed, to the elderly, to the sick, to people who cannot work. And that is the real purpose of government, to protect the weak. Very few countries have the political will to do it. It takes leaders with backbone, charisma, and clarity of vision. Do you have leaders in your country pushing for real reform, or are they talking about non-relevant side topics? And let me know if you think Trump plan is bad. Let me know why, because I think it is just common sense.
That is a good thread. I don't necessarily agree with everything that he said, but if you're wanting a good explanation of what Trump's trying to get accomplished, that may be it. And thank you for sending that to me, by the way. That is a fantastic, fantastic thread. Zippy with another Rumble rant, thank you very much for that, says IP rights lay the framework for mass centralization. It feeds into government, protecting the rackets, which means less local trade, less overall trade, less innovation, crony execs, and politicians. Thank you for that, Zippy. I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, there's this. I mean, I give Trump credit. Let me say it. And don't get me wrong, there's moments I think Trump screws something up. But on this one, I give him a ton of credit. Finally, after decades and decades of the American manufacturing base being hollowed out, jobs being shipped overseas, factories being shipped overseas, the American worker and the American consumer being messed over, you've got a president that stands up and says, not anymore. We're done with this. And we're going to try and straighten this thing out. Like I said, there is political risk to this. But let's see where it goes. I think Selena Zito is absolutely right. The American people are willing to give Trump a certain amount of grace on this, and he's earned it. They remember the first term. They remember the things that he tried to do. They're willing to give him a certain amount of grace on this and see where it goes. So let's see what happens. One last thing, and I got to play this clip because this is just great. Kevin O'Leary of Shark Tank fame was appearing on the Laura Coates live show on CNN. And he was having a debate with Anthony Scaramucci, the Mooch, as he is lovingly or not so lovingly referred to. And Kevin O'Leary dropped some profundity. I thought, this is good. I want the gang to hear this. So with that, and this will close out the segment, check this out.
I think it will. Volatility is brutal. Nobody likes to see the stock market go down, but as we know from history, it's always proven to be a buying opportunity. Never count out the American economy. Those job numbers were a surprise to the upside. So the economy's doing just fine right now. Now, it depends how long these tariffs stay on. I say 50% and get negotiated away very, very quickly. Because you got to remember something. If you're calculating in the political side of this, Trump has a majority right now for another 18 months before the midterms. Mm-hmm. All this volatility, the speed at which these policies are coming in place is because he knows he may not enjoy that majority after the midterm election. So you got to get this work done now. I don't think these tariffs are going to be long-lived at all. And I think everybody's coming to the table very, very quickly. So you're getting this done at a breakneck speed, and people are very uncomfortable with it. But to actually turn the U.S. economy into a recession, that doesn't happen overnight. This would have to last for years. You don't like the gnashing of teeth and the volatility. I get it. And let's face it, Tony, you're not a friend of Trump's, and I'm not even shilling for politicians, whether it's north or south of the border. I shill for policy.
You're not a friend of Trump either, man. There's no friends to Trump.
I think O'Leary is right on the mark here. Everybody is focusing on the day-to-day of the stock market, which, don't get me wrong, if you've got investments or 401ks like I do, like everybody does, yeah, we're all watching this and going, oh man, somebody hand me the Alka-Seltzers, hand me the Tums. I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying, let's see how this plays out. If Trump's right, if Trump is right, you start seeing the effect of this not too far down the line. But getting there is going to be some serious, and I mean serious, heartburn in the meanwhile. So let's just see what happens. Okay. Where are we here? It is 11:45 Eastern Standard Time. And my name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative, and this is Front Porch Brunch. We do a live stream on the weekends when I'm not traveling or I got other stuff going on. And we get together and we talk about the news. And I love the fact you guys are hanging out with me this morning. It's been a little while since we've done one of these. And you guys are just totally awesome. Glad to have you all here. If you're new to my channel, I do videos, I do live streams, do interviews. Need to start getting back in the habit of doing some interviews. I gotta get some folks back lined up. But yeah, I love doing this sort of thing and love the fact that you're here. So if you're new or you're watching this and you've never participated before, you've never been here, feel free to give me a subscription on YouTube and subscribe to me on Rumble. It would really help out a whole lot. Also, share the link around and hit the thumbs up. Please, please, please. Whether you're on Rumble, whether you're on YouTube, hit the thumbs up. We're trying to get the word out to as many people that we're here and we're talking about stuff. So yeah, help a brother out. Hit the thumbs up, share the link around, leave some comments, do all that stuff you guys do. Go crazy, okay? Go crazy. Now, with that said, excuse me one second with that said, we now need to discuss the newest dance craze in America, okay? It is a dance craze, danced primarily by the Democrats. Believe it or not, they are absolutely fantastic on the dance floor. And I have taken to calling this the Tariff two-step. Okay. Now, the Tariff two-step goes like this. The Tariff two-step basically is a situation where you have a Democrat who made previous statements about tariffs and is now saying something completely different. Most other people would call it hypocrisy, but I'm going to be nice to my brothers on the other side of the aisle. And I will just say they're engaging in a dance move called the two-step. Now, if you wonder what I'm talking about more specifically, let's just get right down to it. Right now, you have got Democrats just absolutely losing their minds over what Donald Trump is doing on the question of tariffs. They're looking at the stock market. They're screaming that Trump's got to stop. This is awful. I can't believe he's doing this. Yada, yada, yada. On and on and on. They're pointing to the 4 o'clock hour when the market closes. It's down 1,000 points. It's down 2,200 points. Oh my God, I can't believe he's doing this. And they're saying that his tariffs are going to absolutely ruin the economy. Funny thing about that, it wasn't that long ago when Democrats were in favor of tariffs. You want to start off with a real good example? Former Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Okay. Now, Democrats are telling you right now, tariffs are awful. Tariffs are the bane of our existence. Tariffs are going to cause inflation. Tariffs are going to cause rise in prices. Oh, yeah? Listen to what Janet Yellen had to say about this not that long ago.
As you have seen, there have been some experts, some groups, the National Retail Federation among them, who've expressed concerns that it will be U.S. consumers who eventually end up paying for these tariffs. As you know, polling shows that rising prices are voters' biggest concern right now. So I'd ask you to speak directly to them. Will American consumers bear the cost of these tariffs?
All right, now remember what was asked. Are we going to see price increases? Is the American consumer going to be paying more for this? Listen to what she says next.
I don't believe that American consumers will see any meaningful increase in the prices that they face.
Whoa, 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 whoa. What? 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 Hang on. I'm backing that up. I want to hear this again.
Tariffs.
I don't believe that American consumers will see any meaningful increase in the prices that they face.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. What is this? Joe Biden tried to put on tariffs, and what do the Democrats say? Nah. No worries. We're not going to see an increase in prices. You're fine. Now, wait a minute now. Hang on. But Donald Trump puts on tariffs, and oh my God, we're going to have higher inflation. Oh my God, we're going to have, increased prices. The American people are going to pay more. I can't believe Trump's doing this. Trump is evil. Trump's an ogre. Trump's a da, 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 da. Treasury Secretary Yellen, are the American people going to pay higher prices because of these tariffs? No, I don't think they're going to see any increases at all. Oh my goodness. And here's another one for you in that same vein. We used to have a president named Joe Biden. You guys want to see how much he thinks tariffs are going to be a problem? Watch this.
That's why today I'm announcing new tariffs in key sectors of the economy that will ensure that our workers are not held back by unfair trade practices.
What? Tariffs are we're not going to hold people back? What? Oh my goodness, he got some, for an old fart, he's got some pretty good dance moves. Chuck Schumer, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, Chucky baby. Chuck Schumer, 2018, when Donald Trump was president. Okay. What did he have to say about tariffs? Because remember, Trump was starting to impose them even back during the first term. Watch this.
Look, I think the president's doing the right thing. China has been taking advantage of us for two decades. They're stealing our intellectual property, which means stealing our good-paying jobs. And I, frankly, am closer on this issue, not on many, but on this issue with President Trump than I was with Presidents Bush or Obama, because they did nothing to tell China off. Now, China, of course, will respond. But if they know we're strong and we're not going to back off, they will back off. They have far more to lose than we do. They have a $300 billion trade surplus with us. So I'm looking out, number one, for jobs. If General Electric moves jobs to China, they're not unhappy, but my New York workers in Schenectady are unhappy. And so you can't let the international business companies who don't give a hoot about where their factories are govern this. You have to do what's good for the American worker.
Oh my God. Oh my, I'm about to fall out of my chair. I can't believe this. See what I mean by the tariff two-step? Salty old fart over on him says, oh boy. Yeah. Listen to these guys. But now tariffs, oh my God, this is terrible. This is awful. Trump's going to bring about the end of the economy. It's going to crash everything. The stock market's going to hell. We're going to wind up paying more money. TBA says, who was that? That could not have been. That was Chuck Schumer. That's what I'm saying, guys. I mean, this is just absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. Okay. Hang on. I got a couple more here for you. Bernie Sanders. Okay. This is from back in 2008. When W was still the president, right? I mean, this stuff's going to blow your mind. I mean, Democrats today, 2025. Oh my God, the economy is going to come to an end. Trump's tariffs are awful. We're going to pay more for goods. We're going to kill jobs. We're going to tank the market. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah? Hey, Bernie, what do you think about tariffs? Well, Here's Bernie's thoughts on the whole thing.
Further, what they have said is that we need to not worry about manufacturing in America, because what we should establish is a policy of unfettered free trade. We don't need tariffs. What we need is to allow corporate America the freedom to throw American workers out on the street, people who are making 15, 20, 25 bucks an hour, healthcare, pensions, throw them out on the street, because somehow, Madam President, we are going to create wealth in America and good paying jobs in America as we shut down plants, we move to China, corporations there pay workers 20, 30 cents an hour, and we bring the product back into this country. And anyone who goes shopping in a mall knows how difficult it is today to find the product made in America. But that is the philosophy. And I have to say, in that regard, the champion, and he is honest on this one. Senator McCain has been criticized recently for not being the most honest candidate we have seen in terms of his ads and so forth. He has been honest on this one. He is the lead advocate of unfettered free trade. And that's an also important part of this right-wing ideology, that it is good for America that corporations can go to China and bring products back into this country.
My Lord, who am I listening to? Who am I listening to? This cannot be the current members of the Democrat Party. Lana, honey, that was a good point. That was a real good point. And by the way, good morning, darling. One more in this regard. Whoa. What is it? What is it? Hang on a minute. Hold on, guys. I'm still here. Gotta kill some of this excess sunlight. There we go. Okay. Sorry about that. This can't be the current leadership of the Democrat Party. Oh, yes, it is. It's still Bernie. It's still Schumer. It's still all these cats in Congress. But I got one more here that's going to absolutely blow your ever-loving mind. Now, this one goes back in the day quite a bit. And I could not believe this when I saw it. Nancy Pelosi, 1996, when Bill Clinton was still president. Now, remember what the Democrats are saying today. Oh, my God, Trump's tariffs are going to ruin the economy. He's going to tank the stock market. Inflation's going to go through the roof. You know, rivers will turn to blood. The moon will go dark. Dogs and cats will habitate together. Mass hysteria, right? Right? 1996, Nancy Pelosi. Check this out, my friends.
How far does China have to go? How much more repression? How big a trade deficit and loss of jobs for the American worker? And how much more dangerous proliferation has to exist before members of this House of Representatives will say, I will not endorse the status quo? As I mentioned, it's about jobs, proliferation, and human rights. And there are those who say we shouldn't link human rights and trade and proliferation and trade. I disagree. But if we just want to take up this issue on the basis of economics alone, indeed, China should not receive most favored nation status for several reasons that I'd like to go into now. I'd like to call the attention of our colleagues to this chart on the status quo that the business community is asking each and every one of us to endorse today. Right now, we have a $34 billion trade deficit with China, the 1995 figure.
My God, that's cheap.
Will be over $40 billion for 1996. Since the Tiananmen Square massacre, this figure has increased 1,000%, from $3.5 billion then to about $34 billion now. In terms of tariffs, I think it's interesting to note that the average U.S. MFN tariff on Chinese goods coming into the United States is 2%, whereas the average Chinese MFN tariff on U.S. goods going into China is 35%. Is that reciprocal? On exports, China only allows certain industries into China, of U.S. Industries into China, and therefore only 2% of U.S. exports are allowed into China. On the other hand, the U.S. allows China to flood our markets with a third of their exports, and that'll probably go over 40%. And it's limitless because we have not placed any restriction. In terms of jobs, this is the biggest and cruelest hoax of all. Not only do we not have market access, not only do they have prohibitive tariffs, not only are our exports not let in very specifically, but China benefits with at least 10 million jobs from U.S.-China trade. The president in his statement requesting this special waiver said that China trade supports 170,000 jobs in the United States, 170,000 jobs, whereas our imports from China support 10 million jobs at least. Fact is that U.S.-China trade is a job loser. And
you know, you'd have never, if I hadn't told you that was Nancy Pelosi, you'd have never believed it. And by the way, the clips that I've shown you, the one for Nancy, Bernie, Chuck Schumer, these are all out on Twitter. So the next time one of your friends starts giving you the, oh my God, the sky is falling treatment, and they come at you and say, oh, these tariffs, I can't believe Trump is doing this to us. This is awful. This is wretched. I can't believe it. Yada, yada, yada. This is just absolutely the worst thing that could ever happen. Play them some of those clips. Let them watch as the Democrats in Congress dance the tariff two-step. And you will begin to see what I'm talking about. Yeah, Maddie, brother, you are absolutely right. Absolutely right. Yep. Oh, yeah. Her portfolio is. How's yours doing? Or mine, for that matter. And that was the argument. If we bring China in, they'll embrace democracy. Yeah, that worked out for everybody. Well, I wasn't going to bring this up, but yeah, definitely the pre-vodka days. Jeez. Absolutely true. Yeah, I mean, look, so, yeah, I thought I'd play these clips for you because you know what? Sometimes you just got to remind these folks. Just got to remind them. Got to tell them. All right. We're going to shift gears real fast. It's high noon right now, about 12 o'clock on a Saturday. My name is Brian Trippin. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. Glad to have all y'all here. And we're hanging out together. We're doing a live stream called Front Porch Brunch. We get together on the weekends. We talk about the news. We give our views. We try and solve all the problems of the world, as the old timers used to say. If you're not a subscriber to my channel, number one, subscribe. Number two, hit the bell for notifications. Okay. All right. Zippy, glad to have you here. Thank you for all your contributions in one form or another this morning. Thanks for being here. Take it easy and stay safe out there. It's dangerous for cats these days. Just saying. We're going to shift gears after you've subscribed and you've hit the bell for notifications and you've given a thumbs up. We're going to shift gears to a section of the show that I lovingly refer to as HodgePodge Stew. HodgePodge Stew are those stories that maybe they're not top of mind for everybody, or they're not the most biggest thing we're talking about, but they definitely ought to be mentioned. And I've got about 2 or 3 of them lined up. Aw, thank you, dear. I've missed you guys too. But like I said at the top of the show, between traveling and health, it's been rough lately. Really been rough. But glad to have y'all here, and I've missed you guys too. So to the audience collectively. got some stories here, and one of these you've probably seen. And if you haven't seen this, I want to set this up, okay, with a few seconds of this. This is a fencing match. And you're going to see something happen here that's very, very unusual, okay? So with that, let me play a few seconds of this, and then I'll get to the story, because this has been absolutely raging some controversy, okay? So with that, check this out. It's the beginning of the match. As the match begins, watch what happens. Okay, now if you're wondering what that was all about, a story broke this week. Okay. A story broke this week, and it got some coverage, and it definitely ought to be talked about. And this is from Outkick.com. Fencer who protested transgender opponent bashes USA fencing for ridiculous policy. This is an article written by Dan Dakshiki, and it's the following. For those of you who have not heard about this story, here's what's going on. Stephanie Turner, a senior women's foilist in USA Fencing, protested against facing a transgender opponent by taking a knee last weekend. Turner, 31, was matched against Redmond Sullivan, a trans-identifying biological male, during the Cherry Blossom Open hosted by USA Fencing. Now listen to this. Due to her actions, Turner was given a black card, the most severe penalty in fencing. That meant she was... Hang on one second. Hang on. Sorry about that. Due to her actions, Turner was given a black card, the most severe penalty in fencing. That meant she was disqualified from the tournament, had to be escorted off premises, and could face suspension from future events. Turner told Outkick that USA Fencing's terrible policy is why she had to resort to such drastic measures. Quote, they have a very strange policy where you have to be living within your identity for a year before you register in the women's category, but there are no claims about whether you have to be on any sort of hormone treatment or testosterone suppression at all. You just have to be living in this identity. So any male can just say, I've been living as a woman for at least a year. I'd like to fence in the women's category. And it's like, okay, here you go. Yes, Turner told Outkick. Theoretically, they might be subjected to drug testing, but in my 12 years of fencing, I have never been drug tested, and most of my friends have never been drug tested. You can just slap on a wig or grow out your hair, and then you're in the women's category, or do none of those things and be in that category. The major problem with USA Fencing is there's a small group of radical left ideologues who control the organization. Chief among them is Damian Leffeldt, the chairman of the USA Fencing Board of Directors. Ledfeld is not shy about his belief that women should be happy to sacrifice scholarships, victories, and awards so that their biological males can compete in fencing too. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Oh, that is a bad joke, but that's funny. That's funny. Okay, and Turner's got a valid point here. Okay. If I woke up one morning and decided to put on a wig and say, I'm a woman, guess what? If I do that for a year, I can go compete in a women's fencing competition. So Turner decides to protest this, okay? And say, you know what? I'm not doing it. I am not going to compete against this person. USA Fencing, as opposed to just saying, okay, you have voluntarily withdrawn from the tournament. Not only do they disqualify this young woman, Turner, okay, they disqualify her from the tournament and further put a sanction on her. She could wind up being banned from participating in any event simply because she's made the stand, says, I am not going to compete against a biological male. I'm not doing it. And you can't blame. I mean, what's the difference between Riley Gaines and this situation? Nothing. Not a thing. Well, okay, fair points. Fair points. On choice, but is against early transing and boys in men's sports. She's also 31, not a kid. Fair points. Fair points. Fair points. But yeah, because she takes the stand that she does, nope, you're out of here. So if this Turner is a lib, why do I have the strange feeling she's on her way to not being one, at least where this issue is concerned? Okay. So I found this interesting. I'm like, well, here we go again. Here we go again. So, matter of fact, let me do this. I'm going to drop the link to this article in YouTube and Rumble. If you guys want to take a look at this. Like I said, I just thought this was real interesting. There you go. Okay. Couple of more stories. Oh, by the way, for anyone who's interested, there's new reading material coming out.
Even Barack
Stop
Obama.
it. It's one thing I hate about Fox's website. They will never, ever let you go straight to their website and not try and get you to listen to something. Ridiculous. There's a couple of new books out if you're looking for reading material. Okay. A couple of new books out. They have to do with the 2024 campaign. And, it just amazes me. It really does. It just amazes me how much the press is just such... I don't even know if calling them shills really does justice to how loathsome I think most of them are. I'm serious. I don't know if calling them shills for the Democrat Party accurately describes how little opinion I have of them. Because I think here's the thing that bugs me the most. Okay? The thing that absolutely bugs me the most. I was having a discussion with a family member of mine, and we were talking about this. I'll get into it here in a second. It amazes me when I can look at something and know what the truth is, but then I have somebody in the American press tell me that I don't have the good sense to realize what I'm looking at. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. There are moments when my lying eyes can fool me. In other words, I can look at something and say, it's this, but then there's some factors that I don't know. And the reality is, as opposed to it being this, it winds up being that. I could see that happening. Okay? But when something is so painfully over the top obvious that I can see it, and one person, because of their ideology or their allegiances, just will not acknowledge the plain, obvious truth in front of them, that's when I get mad. That's what makes me mad most of the time about the American press. I can look at something in my own common sense and my own experience and come to the conclusion it's X, And then you're standing there trying to convince me it's Y. And I'm like, no, it's X. Look at it. No, that's not an X. That's a Y. And with that in mind, that leads to two books that have come out. And there are some things in these books that the press is just all navel gazing at themselves over. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, that's kind of obvious, or it was kind of obvious. Here's a story from Fox News. Okay. Let me get the headline pulled up, and then I'll get into it. Top 5 revelations in 2024 campaign books. From Obama working against Harris to Biden's out-of-it demeanor. Okay. The two books in question that either are out or they're coming out. The first one's called Fight, Inside the Wildest Battle for the White House by NBC reporter Jonathan Allen and Hill correspondent Amy Parnes. Okay. Gives a behind-the-scenes look at the chaotic 2024 race from dozens of interviews with people within the inner circles of Harris, Biden, and Donald Trump. The other book is called Uncharted, How Trump Beat Biden, Harris, and the Odds in the Wildest Campaign in History by Chris Whipple. Okay. So what are these top 5 revelations that come out? Okay, let's go through them. Number 1. Now listen to now keep in mind, the press would have you believe that these are earth-shattering, never before realized revelations about things that were going on in 2024. Okay. Here's the first of those, that the press is just all a Twitter with themselves that they've discovered this. Number 1, Biden was, quote, out of it ahead of the disastrous debate, former chief of staff says. In the book called Uncharted, former Biden White House chief of staff Ron Klain recalled Biden being exhausted and out of it while prepping for his debate against Trump in June. Quote, the president was fatigued, befuddled, and disengaged, Whipple wrote, according to an excerpt released ahead of the book's April 8th release. Klain feared the debate with Trump would be a nationally televised disaster. Ron Klain told Politico on Wednesday that he felt the framing of his remarks in the book were wrong. Quote, my point wasn't that the president lacked mental acuity, it's he was out of it from having been sidelined, not because he lacked capacity. He had been isolated from domestic politics by a White House team unplugged from Hill Democrats. Democrat lawmakers and aides to Biden were also concerned about his aging, according to Allen and Parnes in the book Fight. Eric Swalwell reportedly became worried about the president's decline in June 23 after Biden did not recognize him at a White House event, and Swalwell had to remind the president about who he was. Okay. Do y'all remember the story, the children's story, The Emperor's New Clothes? Y'all remember that one? This is the discussion that I was having the other night with with a family member of mine. I said, you know, everybody remembers the story of The Emperor's New Clothes. The emperor is having a parade and he's going down the street, and there's this one little kid standing on the street corner, and he says, hey, the emperor doesn't have a new set of clothes on. He's just naked. That's what all of us, myself, you all in this audience, people watching this live stream later on, we all said at the time, Biden is out of his gourd. This man has problems. But whenever you try and say that to the intelligentsia in the press, they'd be like, oh, no. You all don't know what's going on. You're a bunch of rhubarbs out there in the hinterlands and the Hastings. Y'all don't know what you're talking about. We're the ones that know what's really going on. We're in Washington, D.C. We know the truth. Biden's just fine. There's nothing wrong with him. I mean, he's 81 years old, yada, yada, yada. And we're all sitting here going, dude, it's obvious. This man's got mental problems. This man has cognitive decline. And now, after Biden's out of office and the campaign's over and they lost, they being Biden and Harris, now the press is in CYA mode. Oh, we had no idea that there was a problem with Joe Biden. I can't believe it. I don't understand. Oh my, here's his former chief of staff saying he was out of it. Oh, come on. These books like this make my blood boil. Because, excuse me for being crass, y'all have heard the expression, don't piss down my back and try to convince me that it's raining. That is exactly what this is. You're pissing down my back and you're trying to convince me it's raining. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's absolutely true. Everybody knew it. Hell, Swalwell knew it in 2023. Walks up to Joe Biden. They'd worked together for years on Capitol Hill. And Joe Biden had no idea who he was. But now all of a sudden, well, you know, we had no idea there was anything wrong with this man. Oh, give me a break. You bunch of, yeah. No kidding. I want to go back to this for a second. If Clayton's been given the go-ahead to throw Biden under the bus, I guess all bets are off. Oh. I'll make you a prediction right now. And I don't think this is anything stunning or revelatory to anybody. But you watch. These two books are not going to be the end of it. The Democrat establishment in Washington, D.C. is going to try and bury Joe Biden. They want the memory of his presidency, his performance, his actions, his everything else. They have got to memory hole this crap. Okay? They have got to. There are going to be bombs that drop on the Bidens. They have no friends anymore. Okay? Joe and Jill Biden have no friends in D.C. anymore. Okay? All the people that covered for them for all these years, that's done. He has nothing of use to give to the deep state or the D.C. establishment. You watch and see. If more and more of this kind of stuff comes out. All right, that was just the first one. Okay. Here's number 2. Biden privately demanded loyalty from Harris, no daylight. Biden reportedly urged Harris against breaking from him on policies she supported as his vice president during her presidential run, according to the book Fight. Quote, he would say publicly that Harris should do what she must do to win, but privately, included in conversations with her, he repeated an admonition. There's no daylight between the two of us, the author said. The president expected Harris to protect his legacy. But the day of the debate, Biden called to give Harris an unusual kind of pep talk and another reminder about the loyalty he demanded. No longer able to defend his own record, he expected Harris to protect his legacy. Whether she won or lost the election, he thought, she would only harm him by publicly distancing herself from him, especially during a debate that would be watched by millions of people. To the extent that she wanted to forge her own path, Biden had no interest in giving her room to do so, the book reported. Now, I want to talk about this for a second. I could see this being true. And I could also understand why it was one of the worst millstones hanging around Kamala Harris's neck during the 2024 campaign. And I remember saying this various times, various places last year. Kamala Harris has the worst problem imaginable. And it went like this. If she tries to go her own way, as it were, and, state her own policies, then she's repudiating Joe Biden doing it. On the other hand, if she stays loyal to Biden and all the policy decisions that they made together for 3.5 years, then she is linked to Biden for better or worse. But apparently, Joe was so enamored. Well, not enamored, that's not the right word. Joe was so protective of his legacy that he wasn't going to give her an ounce of daylight. And he more or less told her, no separation between the two of us. So I'm not necessarily surprised by this at all. Not at all. All right. Number 3. Now, here's one that's going to be a shock to everybody. I say with tongue firmly planted in cheek. Number 3. Obama was working against Harris, didn't think she could win. Fight co-author Jonathan Allen said Tuesday on MSNBC that former President Obama hesitated for days to endorse Harris's presidential campaign because he didn't believe she could win. Quote, President Obama absolutely did not think Joe Biden should continue, according to our sources close to President Obama, Allen told MSNBC. And he also didn't want Kamala Harris to be the replacement for Biden. He didn't think that she was the best choice for Democrats, and he worked really hard behind the scenes for a long time to try to have a mini primary or an open convention or a mini primary leading to an open convention, and did not have faith in her ability to win the election. As it turned out, she didn't win, but he was really working against her, Allen continued. Obama's decision to wait 5 days to endorse Harris after Biden dropped out of the race reportedly left Harris feeling very annoyed, the book said. And again, this is one of those moments when my lying eyes and my common sense are so much better than the supposed intelligent people in the American journalistic press. It just, really? It takes you guys 8 months and a bunch of interviews to figure out what common sense should have told you by just looking at the situation? You guys knew all this last year. You didn't want to admit it. All of us supposed rhubarbs out here in the hinterlands, we could look at this situation and realize, oh, hell no, he don't want her in this. The supposed, the supposed extremists, the right-wingers in the media, the Jack Posobics, the Laura Loomers, which, by the way, I got a story about Loomer here in a minute. Yeah, we all knew this a long time ago. But because we're not in the chosen class of the American journalistic community, oh no, we have to be dismissed. And it's not even so much that I'm mad for myself or Posobiec or, any of these other folks I listen to, Rich Barris or Mark Mitchell of Rasmussen, or any of the folks, collectively in the media, in my media sphere that I listen to. I'm not even so much mad for us or them. Everybody's big people. They're big boys. They're big girls. They can answer, defend their, opinions and their takes themselves. But the thing that makes me mad about it, is I could look at this and realize it myself. And now all of a sudden, because it comes out from the journalists, it's the truth. No, it was the truth back then when people like you and me and everybody else were saying this, but nobody in the American journalistic community wanted to admit it. TBA over on Rumble says, no, Brian, that's not what's going on here. These authors are trying to rewrite history. They're trying to pull over the wool over your eyes again. Oh, they're absolutely trying to rewrite history. They're absolutely trying to do it. I totally agree with that. Yeah. You would have friends and family members of yours, and up in Connecticut, I know you're not the only one, But yeah, how many of your friends, okay? How many of your friends or your family members, when you would say this stuff to them, stuff that is born out of obvious observation and obvious common sense, and they look at you and just deny it? Totally deny it. Okay? Oh, no, there's nothing wrong with Joe. You know. Yep, yeah. And it's only after the debate did people say, something's wrong here. And why did they say that? I'll tell you why. Because for 3.5 years, the press kept trying to tell your friends and neighbors, your friends and family members up in Connecticut, and just like everybody else, the press for 3.5 years told everybody there's nothing wrong with Joe Biden. All that stuff that we see, nah, that's just you right-wingers out there, making hay about one little gaffe with Joe Biden. And then when everybody sees it for themselves in real time, only then did your friends and family members say, hey, there is something wrong with him. My friend over here, oh yeah, this would be the justification. That's just Joe. He always, that was the justification. And it just TBA says these authors should be shunned and ridiculed the whole day long, not paid attention to. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. They deserve to be roasted for this. Absolutely roasted. Anyway, I believe this is number 4 of the 5. Harris was completely shocked by the defeat. Believes she could have won if she had more time. According to the fight authors, Harris was stunned on election night by the results. Amy Parnes reported that Harris was blindsided by the results and asked the staffers if they were certain. Quote, and she's like, are you sure? Have we done a recount? Should we do a recount? Parnes said on the Somebody's Gotta Win with Tara Palmieri podcast on Thursday. Kamala Harris reportedly later came to believe she could have won the election if she'd had more time and if Biden hadn't run for re-election. Quote, she could have won, she told her friends, if only the election was later in the calendar or she'd gotten in earlier. In other words, Joe Biden was to blame, the authors wrote. Friends of Harris said that she believed Biden's unpopularity and her late entry into the race tanked her campaign. However, not all of her friends agreed with this take, the authors wrote. That is effing bonkers, one Harris friend said in the book. If election day was October 1st, she might have actually somehow pulled it off. Shorter was actually better, not longer. And number 5, Harris had to convince Biden to endorse her right away. Harris pleaded with Biden to endorse her the same day he announced he was stepping down in 2024. The fight authors revealed Biden reportedly did not want his historic announcement last July to be drowned out in the media frenzy surrounding a Harris endorsement. He deserved his due, he believed, and he told Harris that he would not include an endorsement in the statement announcing his exit. Harris pleaded with Biden that he needed to back her right away. This is important for your legacy to show that you have absolute faith in your VP. The book says Biden went on to put on a statement endorsing Harris a half an hour later. Oh, I'm not surprised by that one. And again, you guys aren't either. She wanted the endorsement so it would just kill any efforts by Obama, Pelosi, and others to organize a mini primary or an open convention in Chicago. Biden didn't want to give it to her. There has been a lot said. About the dynamics of the relationship between Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. To me, that little exchange is just proof of how much those two did not get along with each other. Hey, Darius, what's going on, brother? It's interesting how the dam of truth is breaking out more and more. This month of April is going to be huge. Oh, I agree with that, brother. I agree with that. And welcome in. Glad to have you, sir. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But again, these people are treated like, oh my, this is just important. We had no idea. And people wonder why I rant and rave about the American press. Just, you know, that's a good way to wrap it up, dear. The only response these books need is a big duh plastered on the covers. I'm doing pretty good, sir. I'm not totally healthy yet, but I'm getting better than what I was. All right, one last story in HodgePodge stew, and we're going to get out of here. Laura Loomer. I say that name, and instantly people either go, yeah, or they go, ah. And I can get that. I get that. Laura Loomer is, you either love that woman or you hate her. One of the two, depending on where you're at. Okay? All right. But Laura has got herself into a certain measure of controversy simply because she told somebody what she found out. Now, Loomer is, by her own description, you know, she's an independent journalist. And like I said, you could love or hate her. But she's gotten herself in a certain amount of trouble. Gee, what else is new? So I thought this was fairly interesting. This article is from the Post Millennial. Headline: NSA Director Timothy Hoff and Deputy Wendy Noble are fired. Hoff was in his position for just more than 1 year. Article by, who wrote this? Was this Libby Emmons? No, I guess not. It's an unattributed article. On Thursday, Timothy Hoff, the director of the National Security Agency, was fired after only 1 year in the position. According to the Washington Post, the director of the Wiretapping and Cyber Espionage Service, oh God, there's reasons why you ought to fire him just right there, was also the head of the U.S. Cyber Command, was terminated along with Wendy Noble, Huff's civilian deputy at the NSA. Noble was reportedly reassigned to a job within the Pentagon's Office of Undersecretary of Defense for Intelligence, which is in the same department as the NSA. Lieutenant General William J. Hartman, who was the Cyber Command deputy, was named acting NSA director, and Sheila Thomas, who was the executive director of the NSA, was named acting deputy. Last month, Trump advisor and head of the DOJ, Elon Musk, toured NSA's Fort Meade, Maryland headquarters with Huff. Ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee, Jim Himes, Democrat, Connecticut, said in a statement, "I am deeply disturbed by the decision to remove General Hoff as the director of the NSA. I've known General Hoff to be an honest and forthright leader who followed the law and put national security first. I fear those precisely are the qualities that could lead to his firing in this administration." Okay. The Intelligence Committee and the American people need an immediate explanation for this decision, which makes us all less safe. Now, I say that this relates to Laura Loomer. They got fired after Laura Loomer had a meeting with Trump. And if you don't believe me on this one, Trump is aboard Air Force One, and he's asked about the firings. Hang on. Let me get this set up. So Trump is asked about the firings, and he has the following to say.
So Laura Loomer is a very good patriot. She is a very strong person, and I saw her yesterday for a little while. She makes recommendations of things and people, and sometimes I listen to those recommendations like I do with everybody. I listen to everybody, and then I make a decision. But I saw her yesterday. She was at the ceremony, and she'll always have something to say, usually very constructive.
What did she recommend?
She recommended certain people for jobs.
Adding to the administration, not
Adding.
Who did she
Not
recommend?
firing? Well, she'll recommend that too. But yesterday she recommended some people for jobs.
Did she have anything to do with the NSC aides who were ousted?
No, not her.
Do you know how many, sir? Do you know how many from the NSC?
Not many.
Was it 5, a dozen?
I really don't know.
Who does Loomer want?
There were.
Now, Trump's saying, no, No. Loomer didn't talk to me about that. I'm not so sure. Now, I say Loomer got herself in trouble. The Democrats went nuts on this one. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me find it here real fast. Is this a picture? Is this a no? Adam Schiff, everyone's favorite rat in the Senate. I mean, senator. Everyone's favorite senator, took to the Senate floor immediately and made the following statement. Here you go.
Just yesterday, we learned of another purge, this time at the National Security Council. If firing of inspector generals and ethics lawyers and career prosecutors wasn't enough, senior officials at the NSC just got shown the door. Among others, Lieutenant General Timothy Hawk, the well-respected director of the National Security Agency, the NSA, and commander of Cybercom, fired. Not because of incompetence, no. Not because he was responsible or involved in the Signal group, no. The folks in that Signal chat, they're doing just fine. No, these folks were fired because a right-wing influencer and conspiracy theorist apparently told the president to get rid of them. Because an internet troll, not an intelligence professional in any sense of the word, walked into the Oval Office and claimed that these officials were not sufficiently loyal to the president. National security be damned. In this troll's view, they were not sufficiently loyal to the president. How can we not see what's happening here? Or do we see it and just don't care enough to do anything about it? To say something, anything. They are betraying our national security, and they will do it again. They are turning their back on our closest allies and friends.
You know, hearing that come from somebody like Adam Schiff absolutely cracks me up. And to call her a troll, that's a little bit harsh, don't you think? Yeah, here's the thing. I'll say this. If Laura Loomer did discuss these two individuals, okay, and she brought the receipts to Trump and said, hey, you need to look at this. Do what you want with it, but you need to look at this, okay? And Trump fired them because of it? Okay. I mean, I have a question for Adam Schiff. I mean, look, I know you're a senator out in California, and you are almost untouchable. But look, I may be a small fry in the social media universe, which really I am. But even I've got the good sense to know. Don't tangle with Laura Loomer. Don't do it. Okay? I'm not saying Loomer's perfect. There's nobody in this world who is. But I'm pretty sure, Adam, you tangle with this chick, you know, you're going to lose. Or maybe to put it another way, mess with the bull and you get the horns. It's up to you, buddy. But I'm telling you, you do not want to tangle with Loomer. It's your political rear end. Have at it. But anyway, yeah, and that's a great point. Trump's not going to go dismissing people unless somebody's got some hard evidence why he ought to do it. And like I said, if Loomer brought him the receipts, apparently Trump thought it was good enough. So anyway, all right, let's bring this train into the station. It's about 12:45 on a Saturday. You guys have a life, and so do I. So I want to thank you guys for being here for Front Porch Brunch. I want to thank you for all the comments. I want to thank you for the fun. You have been an absolute blast as always. I love you guys, and thank you so much for being here. I promise I'm getting back on the straight and narrow as far as getting out videos and stuff like that. So, oh, by the way, the Wednesday night news. Hang on. The Wednesday night newsroom will be on my channel this week. How is Chrissy? Fantastic. She was absolutely fantastic. She was just her normal fun self. The show was great. And the lady who was with me got to enjoy it as well. They got to meet and shake hands and all that good stuff. So good times all the way around. But yeah, we'll be back. Wednesday night newsroom is on my channel this week. Tracy, if you think of Tracy, offer up some prayers for her. And it's nothing bad. It's not anything health related or anything else, but she's having to tap back some of her work in social media because of some stuff going on in her life. And I'll let her tell the rest of it on her terms. Like I said, it's not health related. It's not dangerous in any way, but we're going to be doing Wednesday night newsrooms on my channel going forward for the foreseeable future. So this Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern on my channel, we'll do the Wednesday night newsroom. In the meanwhile, you guys have a great weekend. Thank you for being here. Hit the thumbs up on the way out the door. Share the comment. If you're not subscribed, please do so. And with that, I leave you with the words of that great American philosopher Tom T. Hall when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." You guys have a great weekend. I'll catch up with you next week. Bye-bye.